Good morning to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is now Friday, August 21st, 2020, and just as I was getting ready to start recording this, I learned that the National Hurricane Center has upgraded Tropical Depression 13. It is now Tropical Storm Laura. We still have TD 14. That'll eventually, I think later today, become Tropical Storm Marco. So at least we have some resolution there. The first one will be Laura, the one out near the islands. We'll talk about that in a moment, obviously in greater detail. And then the other one, TD14, will become Marco. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over what we know now, the current situation, and look at the forecast, read a couple of things in the discussion. This will be a fairly lengthy video, so this is one of those ones where you need to, sit back and get comfortable. Get out a good book if you want to read it while you listen to me, and then you can go back later and watch the graphics. Hey, whatever works. As long as you absorb this information, everybody has their own way of doing it. Some people walk around and listen to this on their headphones. Awesome. So yeah, we're going to go into pretty good detail here and look at a couple of the model guidance things. And more importantly, I guess, is impact. That's the most important thing. At the end of the day, what are the impacts going to be? And that will directly, contribute to what our plans are. The correlation there is 100%. What the impacts are dictates where my team and I will set up. And that being said, we're going to be leaving here in the next few hours for the Gulf Coast. All right? At least we know some things. So here it is. This is Laura. Update statement from 9:05 Eastern Time. Hurricane Hunter finds that the wind is up now to 45 miles per hour. Pressure is still kind of high at 1,008. Just some pretty good squalls in there that we can look at, and you can see that here on the this is the Pacific and Atlantic shot, because part of this discussion I wanted to show you the leftovers of Genevieve over here. A little bit of moisture getting pulled up into the desert southwest. Not much, and unfortunately, this is not going to be enough to get up here and to help this wildfire situation. And what you don't want is more dry lightning strikes, these dry thunderstorms, where you get the lightning, but you don't get much in the way of rainfall. So I did want to point out what was happening here with Genevieve, still a tropical storm off the Baja in the Pacific there. So going back to the Hurricane Center homepage, they still haven't updated the icon, and that's fine. Nothing's really changed overall, except now it's a named storm, and we see the watches that are all up here, tropical storm watches for Puerto Rico now, obviously through the Virgin Islands and the Northeast Caribbean, and then in the southeastern Bahamas. Still a lot of uncertainty as to what exactly is going to happen with this system. As it comes through here, the global models are still kind of meh, as they say, MEH, right? They just don't do much with it. Yet we do see the Hurricane Center indicating that it becomes a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, potentially with a landfall up here near the Florida Panhandle. But this is a very highly uncertain forecast, and we can see that reflected in the 5 a.m. discussion here. This is written by Dr. Jack Bevan, and it's right here that's the most important, in my opinion, the intensity part of his write-up. So he says the intensity forecast remains low confidence. The separation between the low and mid-level centers, as well as some westerly shear and dry air entrainment, suggests that significant strengthening is unlikely during the next 24 hours or so. The dynamical models suggest that the centers will become more vertically aligned, basically around the next 2 days or so, and that the shear should diminish. However, the system could be close to Hispaniola during this time and be near Cuba after that, especially if it moves south of the forecast track. The upper-level winds over the Gulf of Mexico should be generally favorable for development if it doesn't get too close to Tropical Depression 14. The possibilities range from the system degenerating to an open wave, as the global models show here, the GFS and ECMWF, to a major hurricane, as seen by the HWRF. All right, and so can you imagine? This is PhD, Dr. Jack Bevan, all right? And we all can see the H-Wharf and the H-Mon, these different models. And I talked about this yesterday, that you look at these models, you look at the global models, and you look at the hurricane-specific models, and you try to get some guidance. And this separation between them is pretty remarkable. And to see it mentioned in the discussion like this, I mean, I know it has to be talked about, but explicitly, mentioning anywhere from a tropical wave. You see what we're saying here? The official forecast discussion. Anything from a tropical wave as depicted by the global models, at least the GFS and the Euro, to a major hurricane, which is what the hurricane-specific H-Wharf is showing. That is, wow. I mean, you talk about divergence in the guidance for intensity, a huge, huge problem, especially if people are watching and it's now it's Tropical Storm Laura. I mean, it could blow up very quickly or not. And you say, well, Mark, what do you think is going to happen? I'll tell you this. I've tended to notice over my career that when the global models, especially the two main ones that we watch, the GFS and the Euro, when they don't show much development, and I understand they are not specifically hurricane intensity models. That being said, let's look at it another way. When they do show robust development, you have to take notice. And so the fact that they don't show development with Laura to speak of, into a significant hurricane, I think that's very telling. So I would be inclined to lean towards not much happening overall with Laura. That's just how it seems to be. And, hey, they put it right here very succinctly that the possibilities range from an open wave to a major hurricane. And I think, as they say, the truth lies somewhere in between. So maybe a strong tropical storm coming through the Gulf, the Florida Straits, etc. But that being the case, let's don't lose sight of the fact there will be impacts. All right? Do you understand? That's what we need to focus on at the end of the day, is the impacts, whatever. So let's look at the track map again real quick from the 5 a.m. advisory. Don't worry about these S's and H's, whether it's a storm or hurricane. Just forget that. I want you to close your eyes and just think about if you live down here in the Keys and a large storm system with a lot of wind and rain and maybe some surge, nothing too ridiculous that you can't handle, is going to blow through sometime during the day Monday and into Tuesday, but really during the day Monday. What are you going to do about it? That's what I want you to think about. Don't worry about what category it is or whether it's still a tropical storm. And anybody that says, oh, it's just a tropical storm, well, that's all well and good. Just a tropical storm can wreck small craft, boats, whatever, can knock over some trees, signs, power lines. I mean, they have problems associated with them. Rough surf can drown swimmers. This whole fixation on category, and I'm not going to get hyped up about it unless it's a major hurricane. I mean, that is ridiculous. We can get all worked up about a major hurricane. That's fine. And that's what you should do. When you see a major hurricane, that is a major problem. But nobody ever says, you have just a little bit of cancer. You deal with that in a very aggressive way, no matter what it is. Whether it's the worst case scenario, and I'm being very serious here, that's a very grave thing. You don't hear that. You have a little bit of cancer, it'll be fine. You try to have a positive outlook, and you say, well, it's a good thing it's not terminal brain cancer, lung cancer. I get that. Same thing in the weather. You don't say, it's just a tropical storm, and I'm not going to care about it. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not here to force you to do anything. I'm just pointing out the impacts are going to be there from now Laura. What those impacts are and the severity of them, you can come in, you talk to your doctor, they say, oh, you've got a cancer that's not very aggressive, we can treat this. Well, that's a good thing. And then you have those instances where it's very bad news. And that's our Dorians in the Bahamas, our Michael Cat 5 landfall, our Katrinas. You understand? And we're not there yet. And that's a good thing. So we take what we can get, but don't lose sight of the fact that there will be impacts, even if it's just a tropical wave that'll be blowing through this region. That will bring its own impacts. Heavy rain, could be some severe weather on the peninsula if some of these bands come through. There's a lot to keep up with it, even if it's not a hurricane. And I know I could have just said that, but I want to paint the picture for you so that you truly understand. And that's what you get when you've done this for 25 years, like I have. All right, now on to TD14. This is probably going to be a hurricane. I think this is going to be the one that we remember of these two. And it could still end up being both of them. And yes, it would be remarkable to have a hurricane make landfall here and a hurricane to make landfall here. Very difficult to have that happen. No, they do not merge. It doesn't work that way. One usually takes over, so to speak, at the expense of the other, and then they both kind of suffer because they're both competing for the same energy. This is not the movies. They don't combine and one takes over the other. It's not like black holes that eat stars or anything crazy like that. And so that's not going to happen. First up, impacts down here, right along the coast of Honduras currently. And let's see, it says, so this is the forecast. Wait a minute, something's goofy here. Tropical Depression 14 shows as an S as a storm. That's 8 a.m. Friday. That is not right. Why does it show that? Something is off there. Let's go back, if this will let me, as it starts to unravel my entire presentation here. There we go. I'm trying to figure out why it shows, because today is Friday, TD 14, 35, right, center 14. So I don't understand why something's off in their map. I think it's just a goof. They've got the wrong thing in the wrong spot, because I don't think this is the tropical storm. Anyway, you see how that threw me off, because it clearly says there's an S there, 8 a.m. Friday, and it's not. It's a depression. Sorry, got derailed by a goof up in the Hurricane Center's graphics, I guess. So this looks like it's going to go towards the Yucatan, and this could strengthen pretty quickly, or it might not. We can go look at the discussion about 14 real quick. This one written by Forecaster Roberts. I've never met Forecaster Roberts, so for what it's worth, I don't know this person personally like I do Dr. Bevan. The intensity part right here, which is the most important in my estimation. Deep convection has been increasing during the past few hours. Gradual strengthening is expected before landfall. Weakening is forecast over the Yucatan, which you would expect is expected to enter the warm waters of the southern Gulf. And it has about a 60-hour period when that happens and re-strengthen. So about 60 hours from now is when it should get back over the water. The global models, however, are indicating increasing south-southwesterly shear as it enters the northwest portion of the Gulf, which could prevent it from reaching hurricane strength prior to landfall. For now, the forecast will reflect a low-end hurricane making landfall, similar to the HCCA intensity model, which is like a consensus for intensity. All right, so that being said, now let's get into analyzing everything. So here's Laura out here. Here's TD14, small, very small envelope there, which is kind of interesting. Let's look at them based on vorticity. So Laura's got a little bit of an elongated look. TD14 is more round, but it doesn't pack as much punch. The vorticity, the energy, it's just quite It's not there yet. It's getting there. But both of these fairly well bundled. All right. Again, these are what we look at in terms of what we know. Here's Laura, now Tropical Storm Laura, and it's pretty stretched out overall. Some thunderstorms moving in towards the islands here. So Brent getting ready to head over to the airport in St. Thomas, and he's going to fly out of there. So there's a little bit of squalls heading your way, nothing major, but this sort of elongated look to the circulation indicates that it's not very healthy. There is some shear. You can see how the clouds kind of go off. A little bit of outflow, but the wind is coming across the system more or less instead of outflow in all the quadrants where you just see that very beautiful symmetrical outflow. We don't have that, not yet. So that's a good thing. Looking at TD14. Now this is intriguing because it's a fairly small circulation overall, still interacting just a little bit here with Honduras. But as it moves on off towards the Yucatan up here, this is some very, very warm water. And there is an opportunity for this to strengthen pretty quickly. And it wouldn't surprise me if it does that. And I'll show you some more evidence of why I think that it could do that in just a moment. A lot of talk about dry air, mid-level dry air, the total precipitable water. Yeah, there is some dry air about, and you can see that in this little blue-green shading through here. There's some dry air. But the overall envelope of Laura now, pretty good. Definitely solid here with TD14, drier air sitting up here in the Gulf. But that's what it looks like now. Okay, things are struggling a little bit now, but will they struggle in 3, 4, 5 days? That's what we need to ask ourselves. And we don't know the answer to that definitively, but what they look like now doesn't necessarily have a bearing on what they're going to look like and behave like in the future. So just keep that in mind. So there is some dry air. Here's a good dry air intrusion coming off the African continent. Very dry air over the Sahara. And then a tropical wave trying to wind up there. So yes, there is some mid-level dry air, but it's not like it's dusty Saharan air like we saw in July. And I want to remind you, there's a couple things here. It's August 21st, and we're just starting that steep ramping up. There's still, it goes faster and faster the closer you get to September. And we're moving into a more favorable Madden-Julian oscillation. Everything takes time to get into place. So while all this is happening, we look at the here and now. Struggling system, shear, dry air. That's today. And it matters today because these are impacting land, both of these systems. But in terms of the end game, that's still several days away. And we don't know what that's going to be definitively. The guidance is there, yes, but I'm just saying what it looks like today might not be what it's like in just a few days. We have to remember back to other systems. Hannah, it struggled, boom, really ramped up. Isaias, struggled, boom, ramped up right before landfall. Why would these be different? Now we are in the latter part of August. So there you go. You got to add that to the equation. Just something to keep in mind. Also, water temperatures, 30 Celsius plus, all the way up into the area where this will probably make landfall somewhere in here, the Northwest Gulf, and that is concerning. Because it's got plenty of fuel, TD14. That's a concave area of the coast. Where this makes landfall could be very serious, and we'll address that in a moment. So let's look at the modeling real quick. We're going to look at the GFS and the Euro. Now here is something that definitely intrigues me, all right? When I look at this as a hurricane tracker, hurricane hunter, whatever you want to call me, hurricane expert. I mean, I know a lot about hurricanes. I've made a career out of it. But when I'm thinking about if I'm going to go and set up equipment, what am I going to expect? I look at this, all right? So I'm literally showing you what I would look at even if you weren't there. I've said that before in some of my past videos. A couple things here stand out to me. The GFS here does show a pretty good vorticity signature, and that's what we're looking at. we are looking at the model version of this right here. You understand? So the vorticity signature is pretty solid for both of these systems. This is from the 6Z run, initialized at 2 a.m. Eastern Time. So just keep that in mind. Pretty healthy looking systems there to start with in the vorticity fields. Okay? So let's move this out, and we'll keep an eye on both systems there. Let's go out 24 hours. So 24 hours out, this starts to amplify a little more. This is kind of holding its own, going right through the islands there. So it's ironic. Brent's going to just Brent's going to fly out of there and head over to Miami and then drive up and meet us in Lake City. And that's pretty good drawing there if you think about it. And then we're going to head over here, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But Brent, once again, leaving the Virgin Islands, and a system's probably going to come through. The vorticity maximum right there, almost entering the Virgin Islands. So, which means you guys better be thinking about that. We're going to talk about impact in just a minute. I told you this was a long video. We got a lot to go over. All right, so let's move it out another 6 hours. You see the system, Laura here, moving out of the vicinity of Puerto Rico and the islands, etc. Really not doing much. This also kind of like, So the global models, they kind of, if they don't show much, I typically think, well, maybe not much will happen. So then we go out to 48 hours. TD14 is over the Yucatan. Laura, south of this nice ridge right here. You would think that it would really get going, but apparently it won't be, at least in the modeling here. Going on out to 60 hours. Now, with 14 at 72 hours, it definitely starts to get its act together here, off the northwest part of the Yucatan. There is Laura interacting with Cuba probably. But not reflected very well. It's not very deep in the model fields. Another 24 hours. Now, this is what bothers me. You see how 14 there really starts to ramp up. And then right before landfall, it tends to break up a little bit there. But then it's very slow moving over Houston. Ugh. All right, so let me bring me back on. This is what bothers me. The model is indicating a period that it rapidly strengthens. In the vorticity field, it's kind of small, which is good. But the signature is there. You don't see that at all with Laura over here. So I am not too concerned with Laura, to be honest with you. There will be impacts, but I don't think they're going to be severe. It doesn't look that way. There's just no way that these two models, the GFS and the Euro, are just screwing this up. And the HWARF and the HMON are overdoing things. And I've seen people talking about that on Twitter. And before you say, see, I told you, I know that stuff. I was just pointing out yesterday, it's remarkable, and it is, how much agreement that those two models were, but they can be remarkably wrong at the same time. Because it's also remarkable at how the GFS and the European were in agreement and not showing much. Now, the tune is changing, especially here with what would be Marco. All right, so for you folks in the upper Texas coast, southwest Louisiana area, you need to be thinking about a hurricane at landfall and the potential, as terrible as this sounds, of another massive flood event potentially unfolding. And I say that because we see what happens. It's coming in here, and then it kind of slows down right before landfall, and it finally gets out of there, yes, but that's not as fast as I'd like. I want to see these things get in and get out. So that could be a pretty big flood risk. The GFS parks that vorticity signature right over Houston, right over the metro area. And you see what happens here with Laura, somewhere along the Panhandle, Mobile, maybe something. We'll see. We'll see how strong it is. Very, very unusual setup for sure. And then as we go on out, well, that's 5 days. That's enough. So what does the Euro show? Every 24 hours. Again, here's Laura, now named Laura. Here's TD14. This is the 0Z run last night, so it's about 6 hours older. So move it out 24 hours. It's got pretty good amplification here for Laura. That's decent. Tropical storm. But it's farther to the north, or further to the north. So interesting difference between the GFS, which tracks the vorticity signature, the center of it, through the Virgin Islands. The European does not, for what it's worth. Pretty good reflection here of Marco to be. Now let me just add this little caveat. The global model resolution is not set up to handle these smaller systems. There is a little bit of a worry from me that the small size of the envelope of TD14 here, and you can see it's fairly small, that the model doesn't necessarily see that, and that a period of very rapid feedback could commence before even it makes landfall on the Yucatan. So throughout the day today and tonight, as this gets off and away from Honduras, let's look for that. Again, my instincts of doing this for a long time, these smaller systems, the global models don't have as good an opportunity to see them, so to speak. The resolution just isn't there. So this reflection that you see here, very round overall. That's a clue to me. It's sitting over very warm water. We'll see. This is valid tonight by 8 p.m. tonight. All right, going out another 24 hours. Saturday night, it makes landfall. It's over the Yucatan. And not a lot of reflection with it, so we'll see, right? Definitely has that look to it, though. Got some spiral arms there. That's kind of neat to see in the model. And then there is Laura, really not doing much. Another 24 hours out. This will be valid Sunday night. Now, again, this is where I start to get concerned, because now we have agreement between the Euro and the GFS that what would be Marco here starts to ramp up in the Gulf of Mexico. And again, it's not very large. So that worries me. These smaller systems can ramp up in a hurry. I'm a little concerned about that. I got to be honest with you. So we'll see if my instincts are on, or, especially when I see the model picking up on it. And again, Laura over here, definitely bringing rain and squalls. Don't want to discount that. But you see the difference. That is a more well-defined cyclone than that is. Anybody can see that. All right? Another 24 hours out. Monday evening, Laura over here kind of doing whatever it's going to do. Probably bringing some rain bands across the peninsula. So there could be some severe weather rotating around in some of those bands. Maybe tornadoes. Impacts, folks. Impacts. And again, the Euro showing a strengthening system heading into the vicinity of the upper Texas coast, the Northwest Gulf over here. Small system overall. That bothers me. That gives me the willies just a little bit. Another 24 hours. It's inland now. What would be Marco over Texas. And then the other system, Laura. And then, oh, look at that. More entering, this is 5 days out, the southeast Bahamas. Does this follow suit and try to develop later on? Well, I guess let's just look and see real quick at days 6 and 7. Thank goodness, no. At least 2 we see the energy here with what would be Marco does move on around the periphery of the subtropical ridge. So hopefully not a prolonged rain event. But one more thing to point out. That's energy and moisture. Well, it's energy, it's vorticity. That's also energy, vorticity, representing, we know, a tremendous amount of moisture across this area. The big story, too, is going to be the flooding. That's a lot of frickin' tropical rainfall getting hoisted up into the Gulf and into the Gulf states. So we have a lot more, and you see as it all comes full circle, I know we worry about, it's just like that movie Jaws. When the mayor talks to Chief Brody, he says, Chief, you say barracuda. And everybody, what? You say shark. And we have a panic on our hands. I understand that the H word, hurricane. Oh, everybody, hurricane. But believe me, look at Imelda last year. look at, even a depression can cause problems. The rain bands can cause problems. We must look at this from an impact perspective, and there will be significant impacts for a lot of people. That is what I can guarantee you. Whether or not these are hurricanes or Cat 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, I do not know. And in one regard, I don't care. I'm interested in the impacts, and we're going to find that out together. All right? All right. So let's talk about my plans. One of the most favorite parts of my videos is when we get to talk about logistics. So as I zoom out on the Google map here, I'm sorry I didn't have it prepared. Again, Brent, one of our crowdfunding partners from the Virgin Islands down here, he is going to fly over here to Miami, rent a vehicle, and he's going to have dinner with his dad in Vero Beach. Nice guy he is. His mom's actually down in the Virgin Islands, so go figure. And then Brent will make his way up here, probably meet with one of our other partners, Anthony, one of our supporters, who's got one of our camera boxes from Isaias, and he's going to hand it off to Brent. Brent will meet us up here in Lake City, which is roughly right in here, actually a little bit further north. Us, Mike Farrow, my colleague in Wilmington, he and I will head down this way and meet Brent tonight. We will all head over to this area tomorrow and begin thinking about, along the way, what we're going to do. And my plan right now is to not worry about here for Laura, because I don't think much is going to happen. We can get over here if we need to. We'll talk about that in a minute. So my initial plan is to have equipment set up somewhere in this region here, from west central Louisiana's coast all the way over to Galveston. I know the area very well. I have a lot of contacts there, and we will be able to do a lot. This is a tough region. There's a lot of water. You know that. And it's very, very storm surge prone. So if what would be Marco makes landfall something like this, then this area here in the right front quadrant could get a significant storm surge. Luckily, since it looks small in size for now, it might not be as expansive. That's what I'm trying to say. It wouldn't be as large of a surge over aerial coverage. But we will get to that when the time comes. But that is our current thinking and our plan. Setting up camera equipment potentially from Sippermore Point, which is, I do believe, somewhere right in here, south of New Iberia. That's a possibility, because this gets surged pretty good up here into Vermilion Bay, all the way over to some of these areas, Cameron, through Holly Beach, that area. Not a lot of people live down there, but it matters. Beaumont, Port Arthur, absolutely. Equipment we could set up in and around there. And then we'll focus on this region, especially if it's going to be a big rain event. Luckily, Brent is bringing a truck. I have a truck. Both of us, I think I have a Ford F-150 that I'm renting. Brent is reserved a Ford F-150. We'll see if that's what he gets. And we're going to bring a tremendous amount of equipment. All right? How can you access that? What we have done is set up a project that's 16 years old now, called the Hurricane Landfall Project. That's the underlying code name for the project. That began in 2004 as a way to study hurricanes when they make landfall, tropical storms and hurricanes. Since that time, the funding has changed from corporate sponsors to a subscription-based service to what is now a full-on crowd-funded cooperative that we use through Patreon. All right, you've heard me talk about it. It's a membership, yes, that's just what they call it. I think of it as a cooperative. People joining their funding together, their ideas, people donating equipment, people literally helping out. Brent is a patron. He's one of the higher level patrons. He has the means to do so. Some people do. So he is an active participant. He helps in so many ways. I mean, it's incredible. And that reminds me, I need to pull up my Gmail before I go. I screwed up. I got to show you something. So you can get involved the same way. That's what we are doing here. The $10 level is where you have access to everything. And at the $25 level, you just start getting more perks. Your name at the end of the credits, for example, of our Hurricane Highway Season 2 that's going to be in production later on. There's so much to talk about. So this is how we fund what we do, yes. But this is also how you have access to the best of our products, if you will. But I don't want you to think of it as a subscription, like you pay money and you get something in return and it's one way. It's absolutely not. We interact. We're able to work with each other. We meet some of our patrons. We are all in it together. That's what this is all about. It's a method to crowd fund with the money, yes, but also the crowdsourcing of ideas, innovation, problem solving, hands-on help in a variety of ways. So if you want to get involved, that's how you do it. Patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. The link's in the description of the video. And, I mean, it's really remarkable what we've been doing with this. So this is what it looks like. You get access at the $10 level and up to our HurricaneTrack Insider site. It's all web-based. We do have a mobile version of it, which I will be putting the link to on Patreon once everything is up and running. It replaces our app that we used to have, Hurricane Impact. But the web version is the best way, honestly. This is our chat for all of our members. We have the live cameras in here, links chat over here. We have our map that's linked right here, the new tracking map that we've got. And this tracking map is absolutely incredible. And it was developed by one of our patrons, Will Woodgate over in the UK, Howard over in Bermuda helping to contribute his ideas. And then our good friend and my buddy Jason over here in the Cary area, Cary, North Carolina. Jason works for SAS Institute. The three of them working they didn't charge me money to do it. They just did it out of the kindness of their hearts so that we can benefit. It helps support me, yes, so that I am able to pay my bills and do this. But the end result, you say, well, it's a tracking map. Big deal. Everybody's got that. Well, wait until you see this. This is just an example. In the tracking map are layers. We have our cameras. You click on a camera, and there you go. This is what you will have access to when you sign up on Patreon and support the project. It's that cooperative. You fund the ability for us to do this. These are cameras that we have permanently set up just to show you these examples here. That one's a little slower to load. Down in the Virgin Islands, we've got a couple of them that are permanent. Look at that. So neat, isn't it? This is the one in St. John at Brent's place. Unbelievable. Just amazing work. This is the one over in St. Thomas at Timothy's house overlooking, you know what I think it is? It's the Nest system. Let's try again. There we go. St. Thomas over here. Please load. You're going to make me look bad. Well, it's probably my bandwidth. It does work, and it's remarkable. We have the weather stations that will be activated as well. Those are right here, as indicated by thermometers. And these are just test stations. What do they look like? Well, here's the one that we had set up in Ocean Isle Beach for Isaias. There's your data right there. You know, even the tropical cyclone stuff has information in it. You click on the links, and it pops up. Truly a remarkable map. You can change the extent to street level. You say, well, where is that going to go over? I mean, this is pretty top level stuff, folks. You know, they say don't follow the skinny black line, but at least it should. Well, this is a skinny blue line. It gives you street level frickin' tracking. I mean, come on. Crowd funded. That's how this works. Do you get it now? You get it? It's not a subscription. It's a cooperative, and it's making stuff happen that nobody else in the world is doing. Yes, there's tracking maps, and there's some really good ones. But are there tracking maps that are going to allow you to click on cameras that are going to be set up all through here, and weather stations? There's little camera icons and little thermometer icons. That's going to be all filled in down there. And that's how you access it, is through Patreon, connected to our HurricaneTrack Insider portal. All right? You see, I get really excited about it. All these camera slots will be filled in. We have 8 there. I'm probably going to have to add another row because we've got 15 live cameras now. 15 GoPro cameras to back those live cameras up. 20 pressure sensors and 3 high-end RM Young anemometers that we can use to collect data. And I want to show you what that looks like real quick, and then I'm going to sign off. I know this has run long, but it's very important. Get into my Gmail real quick. Da-da-da. All right. So Brent, I got a lot of email in here. Brent sent me this. Yes, you get to see all of my email. That's fine. Brent sent me this recently. Let me find it. I know it's in here. Yep, right here. So this is Brent's work. Very, very remarkable. And this is what we do with our data. This is Brent, the patron, the supporter from the Virgin Islands, made this graphic for Isaias. The 2 pressure sensors that we had set up. My wind sensor pooped out because I screwed something up on it. That's fine. You learn from it. You move on. We call that next play. But here's the 2 different pressure sensors. There's the low pressure. Got down to about 986 from the sensor at Ocean Isle Beach. And then the one at Oak Island, not as low because it's a little bit farther to the east. Great information here. I'm actually going to post this on Patreon in a little while so you guys can see it. And then to Twitter later on after that. But this is what we do with the data. We have the visual impacts from the cameras, and even the video is data. We call that photogrammetry. And we can use it to study impacts, geomorphology, meteorology. There's a lot that you can extract from visual data. But the meteorological data, honest to God, is the absolute heart of why I do this. I want to know how fast that wind is blowing and how deep that pressure is. Because when I grew up, I saw people on television wearing baseball hats, and they still do it today, telling you that the wind is unbelievable. It's unbelievable out here, and they're wearing a baseball hat. We have 2 words for that. It's called fake news, man. It's like, come on. Really? It's unbelievable, and you're wearing a baseball hat? I can't stand that. So what I want to do is show you how strong the wind is, not by me standing out there in it like some dingbat, but by showing you using high-end precision meteorological equipment, and it is paid for by the public. So huge round of applause to you guys for supporting this. We are armed and ready to go like we've never been, what we call loaded for bear. All right, probably one of the longest videos I've ever done, which shows you the complexity of the situation. I thank you for tuning in. I encourage you to join up, get involved, support this project through Patreon. I am on Twitter at HurricaneTrack. We do provide a live video feed at absolutely no cost and not even commercials. It's not monetized. The live vehicle feed, always available, free of charge, because I know not everybody can chip in even $1. I understand that. So part of our mission is to make sure we provide as much as we can to affect the greater good. So YouTube, we'll have the live feed going there starting tomorrow. All right? And then all the other good stuff that we're doing through HurricaneTrack Insider, that all comes online Saturday into Sunday. All right, so there you go. That's a look at what I know. I will post from the road, especially on Patreon. It's a wonderful app, very much like a social media world encapsulated within the app. Like I said, I'm on Twitter as well. I'll be posting there throughout the day and the next several days. You got questions for me? Hit me up, tag me on the comments on Twitter, on social. I'll try to get back to you as best I can. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I know it's a long video, but we covered a lot. And at the end of the day, that's what I want to do, is educate you. I am Mark Sudduth. I'll talk to you next once we're on the road, tweeting and whatnot, and we'll see what happens with these 2 systems. For HurricaneTrack.com, again, I am Mark Sudduth. Thanks for watching. We'll see you as we head down to the Gulf Coast.